Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ima. Hey, Ima.
Hey, sweetness. We are together this weekend.
Yeah, it's been like the other ones too. This week's topic is what's a mundane task or thing that gives you joy? I'll start you off. I'll start you off. I really enjoy, like, if I can get plugged in to like a good podcast or a good album, and I can just start cleaning the house. I can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that helps out. Like when you're doing something you really don't want to do, like cleaning the house, putting on nice music. Somehow it's like anesthesia. It deadens the pain.
I think what happens is that like you start to because when I listen to an album, I have to be doing something else. I don't know why. I think it's because of my ADHD or whatnot. But like I have to be doing something else while going ahead and you know
You hit on something very interesting. Like you said, because of your ADHD, whatever. But I'm wondering, like what we call ADHD, if that isn't, we think of ADHD as something that is not normal. That these are people that can't keep their mind on their task. But I have a feeling it is normal. I have the feeling the majority of people really are ADHD. You go into like a car garage.
yeah.
Sometimes like mechanics, whatever, or plumbers working, whatever. And people in the trades, whatever, they're in their shops, always playing music while they're working.
Well, it's funny you say the idea of like normalcy because um I saw this viral video and it was showing 100 years ago a picture of a car.
Hmm.
Then it showed a picture of a car today, which was obviously totally different.
Hmm.
Then it showed 100 years ago. Um, it was like a picture. What was it? A picture of. I can't remember what it was. But the point was, it was making all these different pictures of so many things that have advanced and changed, and there's so many differences. And then
Hmm.
they showed a picture of a classroom 100 years ago, and they showed it today and showed it didn't change at
Oh,
all.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone's still on the desk, still facing forward.
it's just there
Yeah.
should be another way of teaching. There should be another method of teaching. There should be an advancement, and there hasn't been.
That's a very good point. That is a very, very good. I remember when I was in college, there was a lot of experimentation that was going on at the time with education, and they were trying open classrooms, and which they tried. It didn't work. It because I worked in an open classroom situation in Baltimore City my first year, and it got to the point where the kids were walking around, nobody was learning anything, and the teachers finally had to take the kids, take them to a section of the open air area and put up a blackboard and just teach them, traditionally, like everybody sitting down on the floor, facing forward, looking at the book at the blackboard, and that's, all they could do. But during that time, there was a concept about instead of giving our kids like books and having them learn by rote, trying instead to give them more like projects to do, like or group projects to do, rather than sitting and just, you know, learning playing by rote. I tried a little bit of that. Okay, the problem with that is it works great once you have the skills, but when you're really teaching the very, very basic skills, yeah, you need the kids sitting at the desk, focused, books open, writing, doing actual, writing. Now, I find as a piano teacher, one of the temptations that a lot of music teachers have is that we, when we're introducing a piece, sometimes we'll play the piece for the kid to show them, of course, how it sounds. And I'm trying to get away from less of my playing, more, in other words, instead of me demonstrating something for the child, or the student, having my student putting their hands on the keyboard and me telling them what to play, like very slowly, the notes to play, so that they are actually totally engaged, not just me playing,
Yeah.
like demonstrating and them watching. I had this one piano teacher, as a matter of fact, he used to get so involved in demonstrating for me what to play. He would just start playing and playing, and I'd be sitting there like this. And then after about 10 minutes, he'd look at me and go, "Oh, that's right. This is your lesson. I guess you should be playing this." Yeah, no kidding.
Well, my question is when it comes to like, okay, that picture where it's just like they showed a picture from the 1900s and a picture of today, and classroom settings are still the same, but teaching methods have changed, no? Or it's still the memorize, spit out, like
The only
learning
teaching as a
concept.
teacher that changed is that you're not allowed to hit the kids anymore. They don't have the stools with the dunce cap that the kid would wear, the class dummy would have to wear. Um, they don't
So
have the
public
teachers with
humiliation,
the
public beatings
yeah.
have been taken away.
Yeah, well, my father tells me stories. He went to school during the 1920s,
Okay.
and he told me there was this one teacher who, if a kid was talking, she would walk around the room. She had a yardstick,
Hmm.
and she'd walk around the room. If the kid was talking, she'd walk over, very sweet, and say, "Now, Johnny, you know you're not supposed to talk while I'm teaching. Hold out your hand." And she would hit him over hit him on his finger, and she go, "Did that hurt, Johnny?" You go, "Yes." He go, "Hold up the other hand."
Wow.
Then I had some friends from South Africa who they eliminated corporal punishment rather late, like during the late 1960s. In the United States, it was mostly eliminated after World War II,
Okay.
certainly by the 1950s. Um, but except the very interesting fact that one of our teachers told us in junior high school was that we knew that teachers were, by that time, were not allowed to hit the kids. But he said, "You know that according to Maryland state law, the vice principal is allowed to hit children."
Really?
Mhm.
Is it still
This was I don't know what's going on now, but this was, I was in a junior high school, say, like, 1963, 63, 64.
okay?
Mhm,
Well, now I'm curious to see if
mhm.
corporal punishment, what are the corporal
It's
punishment
called
laws in Maryland?
corporal punishment.
What are the laws in Maryland?
Uh-huh. So my friends in South Africa told me that they had this one teacher who teachers were allowed to hit kids. And so what the teacher would do is she would take a yardstick. She'd have the kid stand up in front of the class and she would go like this, like she was going to really smack the kid. And then she would give him a little tap, just a little gentle tap.
So Maryland law does recognize a parent or caretaker's right to use reasonable physical force, but I wonder
Schools.
for schools, um, because that's it prohibits corporal punishment. So so they
Even
advanced it.
even even the vice principal's not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I had a music teacher in fourth grade who he had something really funny. He had on the chalkboard, he had this paddle.
Yeah.
And on the paddle, it said Board of Education. And it was a picture of these kids bent over and of a teacher whacking them on the tush. He never used it, it was just there for a joke.
I wonder why after World War II they stopped using corporal punishment in America. Was that just something that like they wanted to go into more of a peaceful society? They were trying to step away from it, or
It's a very good
psychologists were
question.
saying that maybe this really doesn't work, it doesn't help.
That's a really good question. It was I guess well my after my parents' generation suffered through it. Maybe they obviously came to that conclusion like, hey, this is just plain not right. This is not the way you educate children.
Was there ever something that your grandparents told your parents that they were a lucky generation and a soft generation?
My parents told me that for sure.
I
They
know,
were. It
but
was true.
do you
My
ever feel
parents
like
my parents telling
your grandparents telling your parents?
that I don't remember my parents ever saying anything like that. I don't remember. I don't remember. I think we had this on the previous podcast though, when my grandfather was complaining about their life in the Ukraine during the winter
Oh
time.
yes,
He
yes, yes. Yeah, I-
but no, I don't remember my parents telling me anything about their parents, saying anything to them that they were, better, that they had like a cushier life than they had running away from the Cossacks.
well, so then I have another question then. What, I guess, in this latest generation do you feel like how lucky they are and behavior wise how good they are?
Well, first of all, information wise, you guys, oh my God, when you guys wrote your reports in school, all you had to do was go to the internet.
Not
Yeah.
me, Emma, you're forgetting I'm
What?
old.
Oh, you're old. Excuse me. You never went to and downloaded the information?
We couldn't, Emma. Tati had like
Uh-huh.
we didn't get the internet till I was in seventh grade.
Uh-huh.
And
But
we
you still had reports,
Ema,
didn't you?
Google did yes, but Google wasn't
Uh-huh.
advanced enough to really be utilized on that level. I
Mm.
still had to go to school. I
Oh,
still had to go ahead and read books and siphon
Get the
things.
information. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
I
believe I can
used
vibrate
Google. I
different
used
books around.
Google,
Yeah.
but it wasn't
Mhm,
as advanced as it is now. Like now, you
mhm.
ask a question, there's all these sources of
Surrey.
answers. And
You go to Surrey. Surrey, tell me.
Siri, it's
Siri.
Siri,
Oh, it's
Siri,
Siri.
Siri.
Oh, well, my Siri answers to Surrey.
I think it just gave up. It just looks at you like, bitch. Um, but um, but what I was saying was I'm talking about my niece's generation.
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I remember, I mean, one thing though, I remember Yehuda one
Yeah.
time had a report, and we kept saying to him, Yehuda, I think he was in, I forgot, fourth, fifth grade. Yehuda, when you gonna start working on your report? Oh, don't worry, don't worry. When you start, don't worry, don't worry. The night before his report, he showed us, look, I did my report. Oh, he went, he went somewhere, got the information all printed out, and that was it. Had the printout. So I explained to him, look, you're not allowed to do that. This is plagiarism. You're not allowed to just take this report
Yeah.
that you got off the internet and bring
But
it
there
to
was
school.
no internet when you hit him in
I don't know
fourth
how he
grade.
did it then. He went on the computer and got it
There
down.
was no access. We had no computer then, Ema.
He
Yehuda
must
in
have gotten it
fourth
from a
grade, Yehuda
then.
in fourth grade was like
Then he must have printed it out from a book then.
1990, I think.
Okay. So he must have printed it out from a book or something. I mean, like it was a printout. It was a
Yeah.
total printout. And so yeah,
He probably found a book that gave a report of whatever they needed to
yeah,
do, and he probably
I bet you're
copied
right.
it, and that was it.
That was it.
There,
So what
yeah,
happened was, so I had to sit down with him and show him how to read through it, pull out the ideas, and put them in your own words,
yeah,
and draw your own concepts and put them in your own words, and develop the idea from reading. You can't just cut out the article, paste it on a piece of paper, and hand it in.
yeah. So what I was saying from the original question that had
Yeah.
nothing to do with my siblings and me,
Yes.
my nieces, the ones are between the ages of 10 to, I would say,
Mhm.
13. How have you seen them as behaviorally and other people at that age generationally different than when you grew up, and how is it better?
It like I say, some aspects better, some aspects worse.
Okay.
Like I said, information, it's easier to get information. You have a question, you just you have a math problem, it's great. Like what was Shirley one time, a couple times she had math problems that the teacher I felt did not explain well enough. She didn't understand it. We went on the computer, went on the internet, and wow, it explained it so well on these one of these like math tutorial websites.
Hmm.
Excellent explanation. Um, I noticed my grandchildren, I mean, they're watching the educational programs they're watching are so much better.
Hmm.
They watch like there's this math program that they watch
Yeah.
that shows it's so cute. It shows like these little blocks. And these little blocks are talking. And I can make myself two. I can make myself three. One, two, three. Look at me. Look at me. I can make myself taller. One, two, three, four. And they do it. They have it with multiplication and division. And the kids can see, and it's all done like in cartoon style, where you can actually see the figures talking to each other. And in my day, it was more cut and dry.
Hmm.
And they did have some educational programs when I was a kid, which I found I like. There was one program I used to love to watch. It was called Adventures in Mathematics,
Okay.
and I don't remember much about the program itself, but I do remember the intro. I like the intro because the intro used this very interesting music. I like the music of the intro, but they, as a matter of fact, there were some times when if there was going to be a historical documentary on television,
Yes.
our homework that night would be to watch that documentary on television.
Interesting.
Yeah, we were actually good. Or there was one time that there was going to be like an interesting, even an entertainment program,
Yeah.
but there was going to be something in that entertainment program that was interesting. Our teachers would actually, for an assignment, give us that program to watch and write up about it. Like one of our assignments in sixth grade was we had to watch a synopsis and criticism of our favorite television program.
What was yours?
Mine was McHale's Navy.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
I watched a little bit of it, and I
and
saw the remake movie in the
uh-huh.
'90s, I think.
Yeah, I saw that too. But so this girl who I didn't like and she'd already competition, she wrote her report on my three sons. And so she came and she gave her report on my three sons. And the very end of the episode was when this neighbor was giving the boys cookies and milk, and she says, I want to see all those cookies eaten up. And that was the last end of her report. And she started to giggle, and nobody else in the class laughed.
Oh wow.
So it was my turn to get my report on McHale's Navy. Oh my God, the class couldn't stop laughing the entire time I was telling them about the program, what happened, and everything.
Oh gosh.
So I was very happy they lifted my report, not hers.
So just to confirm what you're talking about, so this generation has more opportunities for information, better education. Um, what about like interaction or um, playing games or
Yeah, that's
learning
the thing in a
learning how to
way
socialize?
that I'm kind of yeah, and a lot of educators have said this that they're concerned about the lack of socialization because everyone's on their cell phones now. I think the games like the video games that they have,
Hmm.
as long as they're not violent, I don't like that it's the video games that that create violence.
Yeah,
Obviously, is not have a good effect on our next generation, but um, I think a lot of the video games are very good in that they encourage problem solving and patience. I mean, I've seen some of my grandchildren playing some of these. I think it was Zelda, maybe that little boy figure. It's like Middle Ages, takes place it's like castles or whatever,
could be
and
Zelda. Yeah,
yeah, and I've seen them do the same steps, like the same levels over and over and over and over and over again until they finally get that one little niche that finally they're able to solve that top level.
interesting.
And I tell you, it's very admirable. I don't, it's
There were
to be able to do everything, to be able to have that much patience to sit and do something over and over and over again till you finally are able to solve it.
there,
That's
there
quite good.
was a viral video that came out a couple of years ago, and it showed this kid with ADHD watching a teacher explain mathematics
Hmm.
and then watching Star Wars. And wait, the kid was watching and he mathematics and he was just all over the place, constantly swinging his chair, getting kind of bored, whatever. In Star Wars, he was in like one place, just watching and just paying attention. And it's just like I think what it is, and I think I've mentioned this before in a different podcast episode, of
Hmm.
the idea that you know if you're if it's interesting enough, you get the person's attention. And I think it's just that like people were forced to deal with unentertaining, uninteresting, boring, teaching methods, and then we found better ones, and we realized how good they were that we didn't even want the other ones.
Well, I remember my some of my teacher training, some of the teachers I was trained under saying that we are competing with television, where there is something new and interesting every single second to get these kids' attention. We have to be entertainers. We
Yeah.
can't be just playing blah teachers. Um, the thing is though that as a human being, you're competing with an industry that's spending millions of dollars to do all sorts of special effects to get children's attention and people's attention, and you're just one person. You're a human being. What do you have?
Well,
It's like how can you compete with that?
Here's a fun fact. Nowadays, those big corporations are trying to compete with kids on YouTube. You could have
Uh-huh.
there's these podcasts that go on for 4 hours and thousands, if not millions, of views. And people sat there and watched just two people talk. Nothing else changes except for the conversation, and it just becomes something interesting. People are tired of BS. They're just
Mhm.
not dealing with someone who's just gonna. I'll give you an example. Um, there's this. You can go online and um, look for recipes, right?
Mhm.
And the recipes somehow have to have a whole backstory to them, a whole explanation. Nobody cares about that.
No.
Nobody does. They go straight to the recipe.
Mhm.
So too, when it comes to like people interview, like even this podcast, I've listened to it and critiqued it and
Mhm.
tried to tweak it as much as I can. And I have to somehow find ways to get better. But it's just like you have a point you're trying to make, and then you elaborate on the point more and more and more and more and more. Before you get to the point, people lose interest. And
And so like with some of these things on YouTube, like 5 foods that you must avoid if you have arthritis. Okay, so why can't you just tell me the 5 foods and go on? First, let me tell you about my organization. First, let me
yeah,
tell you
we've
about
talked
myself.
about that.
Then,
We've
yeah.
talked about that. We talked about how you got scammed and you watched a dumb video for a half hour. We realized that it was just something that, unnecessary.
Yes.
But the point is that
Mhm.
like even a 30-second 1 minute clip,
Yes.
this there there's these people online. They're called, and I've
Hmm.
watched a few of them where they watch these stupid videos and then they just give you the answer. Like it's like it's called Second Saver or Video Time Saver.
Oh.
One guy's named Time Saver 3000 or something like that, where they watch like these YouTube videos that are like 5, 6, 7 minutes long. Like, you won't believe what happened, and they're like, after 2 seconds, it's like, oh yeah, A, B, and C happened. That's it. Move on.
Do you know what I've been doing lately?
What?
Like some of the things on YouTube where they're talking about like events, like news events,
Yeah,
whatever. I start to watch it, and you say like, yeah, and they start to show here's the neighborhood, and here's the hood, and here's instead of getting. So I do is I just move the button. I just keep
yeah,
moving the button over and over and
yeah,
over and over.
yeah.
So I finally found out what happened at
So
the
now
end.
you see why people just have less patience for bullshit. Where it's
Yes.
like, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Don't elaborate or trying to like, you know, fluff something up. Just give it to me straight. I think more and more people nowadays are having less patience for being fluff, getting all this fluff.
Well, in my day, we it was Reader's Digest.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of Reader's Digest, was to take these long, long novels with all their description and whatever and details, and basically take these books and basically condense them to the very essence of what they're about. As a matter of fact, I remember one time there was a very funny essay that we read and listened. It was a recorded essay. It was written and it was also recorded.
Mhm.
I forgot what grade I was in. I had to be in sixth or seventh grade. It was hysterical. It was this journalist was talking about things like Reader's Digest and how at the time that the public's quest, like you said, for cutting through fluff and just getting right to the point was getting more and more like to the forefront. So he was joking around about all these new publications, similar like Reader's Digest and everything, that does this to books. And he said they came up with a new one called Regurgitant. And I okay, I'll start laughing. But
Very cute. Well, it's that's what I'm saying. I think
you're talking about ADHD. May I grab my coffee?
sure, grab your coffee. But like what I was saying, hold on a second, let me just readjust.
This is delicious. How'd you make this latte?
I went ahead and
Talking about recipes.
recipes. Yeah.
How'd you make this latte?
No, it's very simple. You just go ahead and you don't you use less water than needed. So you don't add water and boil it and then put the milk and put the coffee in. You boil the oat milk itself and then put the coffee in. That
Mm.
way you're avoiding watering down the flavor. So it doesn't taste like crap and actually tastes decent. That's what you do. Um, so shoot, I was gonna say something.
You're talking about recipes?
No, it wasn't talking about recipes. I was talking about something else. Forgot. Damn it. Forgot.
Regurgitant?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what I was trying to say was, you know, like you told me, and I've heard like all like the the lore, so to speak, of
Right.
like when Mashiach comes, and that before Mashiach, the whole world will just be tired of lies and they just want to
Mhm.
scream for the truth.
Mhm.
And I think it's funny, but I feel like this generation, like we're feeling it more than the last. I don't know how long this is going to be, but people are getting really sick of just lies, just flat out lies.
Mhm.
Um, but whatever. It is what it is.
I remember my mother saying something that if you look at like a lot of the old movies from the 30s and 40s, it was like a lot of these movies like were changed around, to have happy endings. People wanted happy
Oh
endings,
yeah.
especially during the 30s and 40s, because there was so much going on. And my mother said to me that a lot of the humor and a lot of the movies so that we had in my day, we were a very innocent generation in many respects. We like the sex that was in the movies was not explicit.
You
It
had
was very
porn videos happening all the time back in the day.
well, porn videos are forever, but I'm talking about general
General
audiences.
audiences, because the FCC
Yeah,
went nuts because the 1920s they did whatever they wanted.
I guess you're right
So
about that.
no,
Yeah.
it's just they only remember it because they made sure it looked a certain way. Like I said before,
Mhm.
1950s, all you have was like a Leave It to Beaver kind of attitude because that's all they allowed. With the 1950s, you had the McCarthy era where people were being pulled into the government and thrown into prison because somebody told them that they were a communist. So no, that was terrible. 1950s like with the rights that people had, it was almost like impossible. No, it wasn't. It was just what they were willing to create a perception of.
An
I don't.
example though of how though they would swing movies like general movies.
Okay,
Okay, okay.
give your generalization. Give your
Okay,
generalization, and then I can just go
okay.
ahead and
We know. Okay.
break it down.
Have you ever read Tennessee Williams Glass Menagerie?
Last Menagerie.
Okay. Um, and when they in the late 1940s, I was the
Yeah.
1940s, they made Tennessee Williams' movie Glass Menagerie into a movie. The end of the play, it's the end of the play is really very sad and depressing. Instead, they swung it to make it very positive. In the end of the movie, he can't take it anymore. And basically, he has this very over controlling, it takes place in New Orleans, very over controlling Southern mother who was the Southern belle who lives in the past of when her family was rich and she was this beautiful, popular Southern belle. And what does that say? Which had
No, no, no. Continue
oh,
your conversation, and I'll say something.
okay.
Continue talking. I got something. Locked and loaded.
Okay,
Locked and loaded.
so what they did
Mm-hmm.
was at the end of the movie, at the end of the play, he can't take it anymore. He leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and his sister winds up. His sister, who is cannot handle life at all. She's so shy. She just can't handle life. And so she lives in the past, and the glass menagerie is her little glass collection of animals that she has that she plays with all day. I mean, she's like 24 years old.
And she's yeah.
And she's still staying at home and playing with these animals, whatever. And because she just cannot handle life, and she just reverts back into her shy,
Little kid self.
little self at the end of the. Now, what they did at the end of the movie that they made, that
Mm-hmm.
they changed the play,
Mm-hmm.
so that at the end she finally speaks up to her mother, and she finally gets out there in the world,
Yeah.
and she starts to date this guy, and
Lives a good life.
yeah, and he does what he always wanted to do. He always wanted to join the Merchant Marine, and you see him on a boat smiling. At the end of the movie, he says, "Blow out your candles, Laura. For now, the world is lit by lightning. Blow out your candles, Laura, and so goodbye." So in the movie, when he says so goodbye, he puts his pipe in his mouth, and you see him. He's on a Merchant Marine vessel, and he's smiling and waving. And of course, in the play, it was not like that at all.
But yeah, that's a really nice, happy ending, right?
Yeah,
It was such a no. It was
but
really.
they changed it for
I
the
know.
audiences in the
Yeah, because
1940s.
1940s, right? And the FCC, like what I said before, they had more control. They were trying to force a narrative. The first released in 1950 and directed by Irving Rapper, stars Gertrude Lawrence, Jane Wyman, Arthur Kennedy, and Kirk Douglas. William characterized this version, which had an implied happy ending.
Joseph Cotton. Joseph
No,
Cotton.
yeah,
That was Joseph
no, it
Cotton.
was Kirk Douglas.
No, Kirk Douglas was the guy who comes
All right,
and
so I'm going to go ahead and speak this. Just give me 1 second. The
okay.
first released in 1950 and directed by Irving Rapper, stars Gertrude Lawrence as Amanda, Jane Wyman as Laura, Arthur Kennedy as Tom, and Kirk Douglas as Jim.
Okay.
Williams characterized this version, which had an implied happy ending, grafted onto it in the style of American films from the era, as the worst adaptation of his work. Bosley Kroner of the New York Times says, as much as we hate to say so, Miss Lawrence's performance does not compare with the tender and radiant creation of the late Laura Taylor on the stage. The film has never been released on home media. Yeah, the point I was trying to make
Yeah.
is they were trying to force a positive narrative
Yeah.
like all this time,
Right.
and you have all these storylines where they just want a reality of what's going on. I'm not sorry, that sounds like a repetitive. Sorry, that sentence made bullshit. That was like a repetitive, redundant law. No, okay. What I'm trying to
Regurgitant.
it's a waste of time. What I'm trying to say is this. So like each decade has its own energy, right? You look at a 1970s sci-fi compared to 1980s sci-fi, it's totally different. 1970s was really in dystopian, everything was terrible, yada yada. 1980s, everything was like, you had Back to the Future, you had all these other movies that were very much a lot of fluff. 90s had like a grunge vibe to it. But the point I was trying to make was that you can't just go ahead and make a strong blank statement that, they were naive, they didn't know this, that. It was just something that they just didn't care for, or something that they were trying to push to the public. Like looking at the 1920s and saying that, and comparing to the 1930s becomes the film and saying like, oh, this was a more, appropriate SNES generation, as everyone loves to say, like, oh, back in the past they were so SNES. Like they were
Mhm.
so modest. Like they weren't. They had their own issues. They had all these messed up stuff that they
And
would
it wasn't
do.
out in the open.
It was in
It
the opening. Things were openly open all the time. It was just the fact that like you just kind of accepted it. But I think what it is each generation has its own ups and downs, and you'll never know.
Mhm,
I don't believe in comparing. I really don't. I
mhm.
don't like to say like, oh, my generation was the best, or we had the best music when I was growing up. Like, no, music comes and goes, and the shittier ones die off, and the good ones hold on.
So true.
So it's just like when
Although you do like listening to the 60s music.
yeah, 60s
Yeah,
music was
yeah.
dope. Good 60s music that survived the criticism of the time was great. I love it. I love the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel,
Peter, Paul, and
Peter,
Mary.
Paul, and Mary.
Mm,
Getting a phone call, eh? We can
mhm.
ignore it for now. Tell them we're doing a podcast. Um, actually, just pick it up now and just tell them we're in the middle of something.
No, 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 no. Let's continue. Let's
Okay,
continue.
because it's gonna bug. You're gonna hear the audio's gonna pick up. So just okay, it's
Yeah,
done.
good.
All right, fine. So the thing is that
That'd be a good topic.
what
Technology that coincidentally listens to you. Like
that
how many times have I said stop ringing? His phone stops ringing. Yeah.
well, I mean, they're going to listen to you. It already does. I mean, I remember, and this is something it's so hack now to even mention, but it's just like, you'll be talking, having conversation with somebody, and you'll see advertisements like on Facebook about something you literally just talked about.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. One time I was in a store with my then boyfriend in college,
Yeah.
and I started to hum this tune. About 5 minutes later, the tune came out on the music, the store music that
Oh, the
comes out.
music. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and my boyfriend looks at me, and goes, "Are you psychic?"
Well, are you psychic, Emma? I'm curious.
Yeah,
What in your life have you ever predicted and came true? Like you saw,
yeah.
ah, listen here. No, it's more of like you see a pattern going on. You're like, this is going to happen. This is going to end. This is not going to end well. And sure enough, it wound up being it didn't end well. And something personal, not like political, where like you can see an issue and whatnot. I'm talking about like you see. I would say I'll give you an example. Um, at these first
That's
seconds,
what I was thinking.
but like
My,
that was I literally saw it.
your older sister's like first
Second.
and second.
I saw the guy from a block away, and
Yeah.
I told you I was like that guy's something's off with him. But
I think that happens to everybody. Like I've seen some couples,
yeah,
in the Jewish community here. The minute they get engaged, you think "Th- this is
Th-
not going. And
this is gonna be fun.
sure enough,
Yeah, yeah.
a
I knew
year or
this one
two
guy.
later, it's
I
crashed.
knew this one guy, and like he got engaged. I'm like that doesn't.
That's not being psychic. That's being kind of like to put one and one together, you get two.
Yeah, so that's so fine. Let's not talk. So not that. But I mean, is saying like
Mhm,
I guess when it comes to like raising kids,
mhm,
where you see somebody, you're like, that kid's gonna go somewhere. That kid's gonna have a rough time. And then 10, 15
mhm.
years later, you're like, yeah, called it. Yeah, you've ever had that?
Teachers do that all the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
teachers do that all the time. Very
yeah.
true.
So what's
What's the difference between you know being like evaluating something, a
yeah,
situation, and a psychic is when you're not evaluating the situation, but it's like
your intuition.
yeah, it's like for example, it's very interesting. Like we mentioned that and me singing that song before it actually came out was not is not unusual. This happened a few times to me. There are other people I know where we'll start singing a song in the car, turn on the radio, and that very song that we were singing or talking about will be on the radio. The Baba Rebbe said something. He said when you have an idea,
Hmm.
he says ideas have power
Yes.
without you even verbalizing them,
Yeah.
and like vibes that things are out there, energies are out there that people pick up on.
So what have you done that would give that a good example?
Like I said, like um,
No, no, I want
romantic
another one. I don't want
couples.
another one.
Another one.
Another one. Entertain me.
That.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think of other situations in life.
It's just like whatever. It's like
I'll probably think of, after the podcast is when I think of all
okay,
these
the
things.
podcast is over. The podcast is over. Okay, go on, continue.
Oh, um, let me see. Oh, oh, I noticed something very interesting.
What?
My nurse midwife was always on the mark about predicting the sex of my babies. It's unbelievable.
Mm.
And she told me that. She goes, other people tell
Yeah,
me about her too. It's
it's no, it's
unbelievable.
because the way the baby from what I was told,
Hmm.
it's the way the baby um uh holds itself
Hmm.
in the womb. If it's if it's more upright,
Hmm.
like if the pregnant woman, like here's the pregnant woman,
Uh-huh.
and then here's the stomach, uterus, whatever.
Hmm.
If it's like this,
Hmm.
it's a boy. If it's like that, if it drops down, oh, if it drops down, it's a girl. If it's raised high, it's a boy.
That I never heard of. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I heard it
Where'd
multiple
you get this
times.
from?
So many women, so many people on Instagram, so many like all these random like pseudo doctors, whoever, they've
Uh-huh.
all said the
Yeah.
same exact little story.
Because my nurse midwife didn't say that to me. She just said that it's like she told me that. She said somehow she has this intuition. Whenever her patients come to her, she just knows. Like she'll whoever she refers to the baby. If during your pregnancy she refers to baby as a boy, as a him, and she says him, he, him. Yep, it's a boy. If she says she, her, it's a girl. And one time when I was in labor, I noticed like sometimes when I was in labor, when I was doing the really heavy breathing, if it went, it turned to be a boy. If it went like a she, it turned to be a girl. The week before I would give birth, this is real hysterical. If I would
Oh
open
yeah,
up
you never knew
the
yeah.
pepper, I told you the pepper
No, I
story.
just realized you never got you never checked the sex when you were pregnant. You never got an
Mm,
ultrasound until the
that's
last child.
right. That's
After
right.
not after 9 kids, the last one gets ultrasound.
No, but I wouldn't. I didn't want to know the sex. I wanted to be surprised.
Yeah, but you never
So
used the ultrasound.
no. So here's what
Okay,
happened.
continue. Whatever.
So whenever I would slice up a pepper,
Yeah,
if when I was like the week before I would give birth, if it was a boy, the baby peppers inside were long and thin.
yeah.
If it was a girl, the baby peppers inside were little and round.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of story I was looking for. Jeez, I had to, like dig out of you. Like I have to like go through like, what am I trying to do here? Ugh. Um, yeah. So
And when I told this to my nurse midwife about the pepper story,
yeah.
she just looked at me and cracked up laughing.
Well, it's always it's I always find it funny where like you have these little nuanced stories where it's just like these little quinky dinks. It kind of gives a little flavor to life, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but that's I don't know. It's something that like I like. It's always fun to talk about.
We have to laugh about the Larry King one time.
Yeah,
Was criticizing these popular psychics
yeah,
that predicted the future and everything. So he referred to this one woman supposed to be this big psychic. So he says, "Okay, let's read what she just read." Was doing, and she said he was during the Clinton administration. She goes, "President Clinton will have a lot of challenges in his administration," and then Larry King goes, "Boy, this lady's a real rocket scientist."
yeah. It's a broad. That's what I'm telling you about the broad stroke. You know, that's what I'm saying when you say when everybody. I'll give you an example. There's one
Hmm.
last story before we got to call it a day. Um, I was we were at a bar mitzvah last weekend in Silver Spring,
Hmm.
and I was looking for the coffee room, and this little 9-year-old boy said, "There's no coffee room here. If it's not out front, there's no coffee at all whatsoever." I'm like, "Okay, buddy, all right, it's fine." And then I just turned around and I asked an adult, like, "Where's the coffee room?" And they showed me to the coffee room. I'm like, "Yeah, I remember." I'm like, I told him I didn't realize it was an earshot of the kid. I'm like, "Yeah, I never listened to what a kid has to say."
Oof.
And I go ahead and I leave. I come back. The kid is going to his father, crying, telling how he was hurt that like didn't listen to him and how like I just ignored him. So I told him like, "Listen, buddy, it's not that. Like you probably." He's like, "I was here my whole life. I know what you're talking about." He's like, "Nine." So like look, like it's gonna be fine. But just remember, in general, if someone says an absolute, there's a high probability it's not true. Right. So that's what I'm trying to say. If anyone says never this, always that, there's a high chance that that's probably false. So I don't believe the
Mhm.
1950s everything was all nice and dandy. And I think it's
Mhm.
kind of funny and ironic that people are more worried today about safety with children than in the 90s. But in the 90s, it was way more dangerous. So it's just, and we have more, I guess, products to help keep our kids safe. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there and
As they
deal
say,
with it.
never say never.
I know, like we just said. All right, I love you. We'll have
Love
a
you
good
too.
Shabbos. I'm going to
Mhm.
hit the ground running. Let's
Right.
go.
Bye bye.